Have you ever caught your own reflection in a mirror and immediately wanted to look away? Or looking at yourself in the mirror while you're getting ready to go somewhere, but don't really see yourself, or even don't like what you see? Maybe because you see what's wrong or what you don't like or what needs to change. But I want you to know that it doesn't have to be that way. And today we're going to talk about an entirely new twist on mirror work that can actually change the way you see yourself, what you say to yourself, and how you think about yourself all day, every day. And you really do want to stay all the way to the end on this one for yourself, because mirror work is something that most people avoid and something a lot of people aren't willing to do. But this is different. And as far as I know, there's nobody out there teaching this kind of work in this way. So hang in here with me, because I'm going to tell you why it works, how it works, and how to do it several different ways. And even a quick little clip of me that nobody else was ever supposed to see, because it really is so simple and it really does work. And I can say all of that with the conviction that comes from personal experience. I've practiced different forms of mirror work throughout my life as a self-love practice, most commonly associated with Louise Hay's technique, and in more recent forms that are almost entirely focused on manifestation techniques to foster feelings of success. And both of those do have value. I have had results with both, but the biggest breakthroughs that I've seen with mirror work have come with this integration of the most basic shadow work and certain aspects of parts work that focus on interacting with different parts of yourself, especially the parts that you've locked away. Because there is a place in your inner world that was made to store painful memories from the past and parts of yourself that your brain just really didn't know what to do with. And that's what we call the shadow. And it's often portrayed as a really dark place inside you, maybe a place that feels scary, probably because you're not sure what you're going to find in there. But we can start to turn up the lights, and maybe there's actually something interesting here. Maybe that self-imposed prison is really more like a long hallway with doors that open up to old memories, or maybe a really short one that leads to just a few. And you can learn to turn that into a really safe, quiet place where you can sit down and talk to different parts of you. And you can do that without needing to know anything about shadow work. In my opinion, real shadow work is best done under the guidance of a qualified professional, but this is just a simple technique that can be practiced safely on your own, and it starts with understanding why and how mirror work works. And even if you're just saying nice things to yourself in the mirror, it does work because it brings you into direct contact with yourself. And your brain reacts to that in a very specific way because it doesn't really have anything to do with the way you look. It's about seeing yourself, the true self, from a different point of view. And when you make meaningful eye contact with yourself in the mirror, your brain doesn't fully process what it sees in the reflection as just you. It activates the same social circuits that it uses when you're looking at or interacting with another person. And those are the same systems that are involved in connection and empathy and intimacy and even threat detection. And that's why it can feel so uncomfortable, because on a brain level, it feels like being seen. And here's where it gets really interesting. We all have something in our heads called mirror neurons. These are the neurons that fire when you observe someone else and when you experience something for yourself. They're part of how you learn, how you empathize, how you understand other people, and how you observe the way they express themselves. But in the mirror, you're the one expressing, the one experiencing, and the one observing. So when you look at yourself with judgment, your brain registers that as being judged. And when you avoid your own eyes, your brain registers that as disconnection. But when you soften and open yourself up to what you see and actually stay present with yourself, your brain starts to register connection and safety. And as soon as you do that, you create some space for a neurological pattern interrupt. You're deliberately breaking the automatic loop with your intention to be there for any part of you that needs you right now. And the brain can't keep running the same old pattern, because when you're actively seeking a meaningful connection, you're not on autopilot. It starts moving activity out of the habitual thought patterns and emotional centers of the brain and into the prefrontal cortex, where you're not just feeling or thinking differently, you're seeing yourself differently. And your mirror neurons are picking that up. You're literally training your nervous system how to interact with the parts of you that you've been avoiding in a healthy way. And this is why this scientific twist on mirror work is one of my favorite ways to bridge the gap between abstract shadow work and how the brain works. Mirror neurons are powerful, but we have to give them something to work with. And that starts with just being able to stand there and look at yourself with a little bit of love in your eyes. And that might sound like an easy thing to do, but that's not necessarily easy for everybody at first. I can't tell you how often I ask people in my public classes to look at themselves with a little love in their eyes, and some of them are out there shaking their heads no, like they can't or don't want to. And I'm not even talking about teaching this kind of stuff in those classes. Those are public yoga classes that are focused on physical practice. So the first step is just to stand there or sit there if you want to use a hand mirror and look at yourself for a minute. Really look at yourself beyond what you see on the outside, because most of what you see at first is just surface stuff. Maybe not even really seen at all. Maybe trying to avoid what you see or picking yourself apart and looking for what's wrong. And I do understand why that happens. Sometimes I don't like everything that I see either, but so often that's coming from parts of ourselves that have healing to do. That's the part that's critical. That's the part that's afraid or ashamed, or the part that feels guilty or old or tired or jaded. And if you don't like what you see, those parts start to feel rejected or ignored or judged into silence, but they don't go away. Either they get louder or they move a little further into the shadow, but all of them want to be recognized and accepted. So you look yourself in the eye and ask, what is in there that needs my attention right now? And then you listen, not with your head, but with your heart. Not with your ears, not even really looking for words, just open to whatever shows up. And maybe that starts with a feeling or a critical thought or just something that feels generally uncomfortable. But maybe there is some judgment that shows up here, and you don't want to shut that down or deny it. Listen for that voice that's always talking in your head and see what it's saying. And you can say it out loud if you want to. Don't monitor yourself, and go ahead and use the word I for this part. You can say, I'm mad, or I'm sad, or I'm confused, or frustrated, and then study it instead of pushing it away. That's how you label the feeling, and that's how you identify the problem or the part of you that needs your attention. And none of this needs to be scripted. There's only one sentence that you really need to remember to shift your point of view when you're talking to any part of you, even if you can't give it a name. And instead of saying, this is who I am, and letting those old patterns or emotions define you, you start saying, that's a part of me that needs the best of me right now. And that one sentence starts to change everything. As soon as you do that, you're moving from I am something I don't want to be to there's a part of me that needs me. That part of you is sending you a signal, and there's important information there. Use it to acknowledge what you've been trying to avoid. Notice which parts start talking and give those parts your attention, not by forcing positive thoughts or I am statements that don't really mean anything to you, just by being willing to be there for yourself. You're not abandoning yourself or hiding from yourself. And for a lot of people, That is new. That's why it can feel uncomfortable at first. Your system might not be used to that level of honesty, but that discomfort in the mirror isn't a problem. That's the door to healing and a portal to accessing the real you. That part of you does see you clearly. It already knows everything about you, so there's nothing to hide. It knows what's there. And the real you knows how to sit with it with the same compassion and understanding that you would give to someone that you really care about. And that will almost certainly change what you say next. The next words out of your mouth are the words you would say to someone you really love if they needed your help. And sometimes those words do include something that's hard to hear, but they're always wrapped in love and compassion and reminders about what needs to be done and words of encouragement that you might not have said to yourself otherwise. There is a part of me that feels uncomfortable being seen right now. And maybe a part of me that wants to shut this down, but I'm not going anywhere. Stay with the feeling or the part that comes up and tell yourself what you really need to hear. This is you talking to you, using either your own name or the word you. And when you say, I see you, while you're actually looking at yourself, your brain translates that as being seen. And when you say you don't have to protect yourself like that right now, your nervous system starts to relax into feelings of safety because now that part of you isn't alone. And that's a big step toward integration. You're not trying to get rid of parts of you. You're changing your relationship with them. Humility shows up here not as an idea, but as a practice. Seeing yourself clearly, without distortion, without judgment, but with real love and compassion. So instead of I am anxious, you shift to thinking, I can be there for the part of me that feels anxious right now. And you say, I see you. You're not alone in there. Instead of I'm ugly or weak or a failure, you start thinking, I can be there for the part of me that feels that way. And you say, I know better than anyone why you feel that way. I really do, because we're in here together. But I also know all the things that are beautiful and strong about you. And we're going to sit with this together and talk about it until you remember all those good things about you. And you can apply this in so many ways on the fly, depending on what you see and what you're looking for. You can look for parts of yourself that need your help and the parts of you that have help to offer. Sit down and talk to the part of you that feels stuck in a dark place, especially if it feels like a prisoner, because that's how you open the door to the part of you that knows how to feel free. Talk to the warrior in you to find out what you're fighting against and to remember what's really worth fighting for. Tap into the part of you that's looking for peace to remind yourself how to find it. And the dreamer, because that part still believes in you and what you really want. You talk to the observer to get a new perspective and give yourself the best advice from the part of you that knows what you need, with the reminder that there is still that innocent little one in there somewhere that does need you. And it might still be living in the shadow. It needs you to be brave enough to come find it. Never forget, you are your person. You were put here to take care of you. And this is such an easy way to do it. As long as you're in there being good to yourself and taking care of yourself in a healthy way, there's no way to do it wrong. And this is something you can practice all day. If you don't have a mirror nearby or you just want to go a little further, I recommend talking into a camera. Everybody's already got one in their hand. Recording yourself exactly as you would if you were talking into the mirror and playing it back to yourself might feel a little weird at first, but nobody else needs to see it. Practice telling yourself what you need to hear and love yourself enough to listen to it and hear and see yourself saying it without putting yourself down or picking yourself apart. So here's me spontaneously talking to myself while I was setting up my little recording studio here. You can do this, Marta. I know you can. I know you don't like it. I know it's not easy, but you are a good teacher. You're a great teacher. You have lots of things to say. So figure it out. We're almost there. You can do it. I believe in you. I love you. I already had the camera rolling just for testing, and I was having problems with settings and sound and feeling down on myself and frustrated because even though I've been teaching in person for a long time, I felt nervous when I was starting this channel. I'd already been struggling with technology, and I was in the middle of watching my little old dog sick and dying, and my emotions were all stirred up, and I couldn't get everything hooked up and working the way I wanted it to. And I caught myself right there thinking that I wasn't going to do it and it wasn't going to work and that maybe I shouldn't do it. And that quick little test clip really ended up meaning something to me. I'm only sharing it here because it really can be that easy. I didn't need to officially name the part of me that I was talking to or officially decide to do some mirror work. I just needed to catch myself in the feeling and acknowledge the part of me that wanted to give up and remind myself that there really is a part of me that believes in me. And you can do that too. And you don't even need a mirror or a camera after you've been practicing this for a while. You can hold up one hand like you're looking into the mirror and follow that exact same process. This is what's trying to get my attention. This is the part of me that needs to be seen. And this is the part of me that can see the real me and give me what I need. Bringing those two parts together with a hand gesture that encourages a healthy balance between the right and left side of the brain. Balancing masculine and feminine energy, partnering with yourself and listening to the part of you that has been talking about everything that's wrong with you in your head behind the scenes. And instead of shutting it down, give it your attention. Interrupt it, not by cutting it off, but by actively listening to it and responding to it by giving it what it needs. And if you want to go even deeper, go back to the video for identifying the voice behind the thought. These are all real tools, keys that you can actually use to open the door to freedom. You're not just the prisoner anymore. You're the one holding the key. This is the part where you learn to love yourself. And that's where the healing happens.